Be kind one to another, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32. Be kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. And then the next verse in Colossians chapter 3, verse 13 says, forbearing one another and forgiving one another, if any man has a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. Colossians 3:13, Ephesians 4, verse 32. Our topic, once again, is breaking down the barriers, okay? That's general, and we've looked at forgiveness, and we've looked at sex, and I'm to do something to touch each one of those. When I looked at this idea of breaking a be kind one to another in the original, the tenses are in the present. Present, middle voice, participle, tenderhearted, forgiving one another. The word forgiving there is a present participle. In the Greek, the present tense has to do with the English progressive present. That is linear or durative action, action continuously going on. In other words, don't forgive just one time. Live a life of forgiving someone. Live a life of forgiving people. This must be action that is progressively, continuously going on in your life. As it is, as you receive it from God progressively and continually, you are to give it progressively and continually, okay? And when I look this word forgiveness up, the first part of this word, it's charizomai. The first part of this word, charis, is the same word from which we get the word grace. And the word grace means unmerited favor. That is, therefore, forgiveness simply means to forgive someone who did not merit it or earn it. And the word grace also means winsomeness or charm. Well, the word forgiveness then means to look upon someone as a beautiful person again. Look upon that person as a charming person again. You see, often when people offend us in life, we can no longer look at them as beautiful people anymore. In other words, our response to them, or if someone questions us about that person, we say the person's not worth a quarter. Not worth two dead flies with their wings cut off with polio, etc. Okay, I mean, we say all kinds of things about these people simply because we no longer look at them as a person of value. We no longer see them as a beautiful person, but encouched in this word forgiveness is winsomeness, charm, beauty. Wow. Remember John chapter 1 verse 14? It says, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace, full of winsomeness, beauty and charm, full of grace and truth. And so when the text here in Colossians chapter, or Ephesians chapter 4 verse 32 says, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven you, the text is saying that you are to forgive a person that does not deserve it. The text is saying that you must continuously forgive that person. The text is saying, remember Peter's question, and the answer came back 7 times 70? How oft should I forgive my brother? 7 times 70? Okay? You must continue to do it. And then the text also says that, that is the word, couched in the word is the idea that, look, you look at that person as a person of value, a person of beauty, a person of charm. And folks, that's work. Can we all say amen? That is work. Colossians chapter 3:13, once again, the word is a present middle participle, and that word, that is, anytime you find something in the middle voice, you're looking at something that the speaker must do for himself, okay? Or the person must do for himself. You cannot leave forgiving someone up to someone else. You cannot leave looking at this person of value again up to someone else. It's you. The command is to you individually, and you must do it. Forbearing one another and forgiving one another, if any man hath a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. So in Involved in this word forgiveness is the idea of grace. Involved in this word of forgiveness is what Christ has done for us. What we expect from Christ, we must be willing to give to others. That's the bottom line, folks. That's what Matthew 18 is talking about. That's what the entire flavor of the New Testament is about. It's about God so loving a world that he gave his only begotten Son, a world that did not deserve it, a world that did not merit it, a world that was ugly in sin, a world that had shaken the fist of rebellion at God, a world that was so cold and so at war against God that when he sent his Son, and his Son showed his face, John chapter 1 verse 18 says, no man hath seen God at any time save the Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he hath made him known. The idea of make known in the Greek is the same word from which we get the word exegesis, and the word exegesis simply means to give a full explanation of something. So the idea is this, friends, that Jesus is the full explanation, the full expression, the exact picture of God. And so God showed his face to man in Jesus, and man hated God so much they nailed him to a cross. And on the cross, Jesus says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Isn't that something, folks? God, I want to place value on these people again. I want to look at these people as people with charm, with beauty. And he continues to do that in our lives. And if we want it to continue, the flow from heaven to continue to us, we must continue the flow from us.
Amen. Amen.
Okay. Let's read a little bit. The above text, like many other texts in the Bible, has to do with forgiveness. And as we study through the rest of the Bible, we find forgiveness to be one of the major themes, okay? In the following, we will first define forgiveness, then show the need for it, and then show the other elements involved in it. Lastly, we will demonstrate how that only through genuine biblical forgiveness can barriers in our relationships be completely broken down. Someone has said, a Christian will always find it cheaper to pardon than to resent. Forgiveness saves the expense of anger, the cost of hatred, and the waste of resentment. The meaning of forgiveness. The Hebrew word selach appears 46 times in the Old Testament, and it means to pardon. And the idea of pardon carries with it the idea to release from further punishment, to excuse for fault. Folks, that's forgiveness, when I excuse you of the fault. Okay? The Old Testament believer was assured of forgiveness based on sacrifice. The priest shall make atonement for him in regard to sin, Numbers 15, verse 25 through 28, Leviticus 4, verse 26, etc. Okay? And these priests, or that is, the sacrifice was ordained by God to promise the ultimate forgiveness in God's sacrifice of his Son. Moreover, sacrifice was appropriately connected with atonement, as there is no forgiveness without the shedding of blood, Leviticus 4, verse 20, Hebrews chapter 9, verse 22. The thing to remember is that by the Hebrew selach is the fact that God alone forgives of sin out of his grace. That's Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 17. Before leaving the Old Testament, there is still another word translated forgiveness in various contexts, and that is the word nasa, and it means to lift up or take away. Thus, the word brings out the idea that the penalty, the guilt, and the shame, underline this, folks, because I'll be living here for a while. The penalty, the guilt, and the shame of sin can only be lifted up and taken away by God alone.